Yeah.
Man, I think overall that's a good thing.
Yeah.
The only thing that piqued me was like, is there any safety issues with that? But I'm going to guess all of y'all have your phones from a safety perspective if something's going wrong. Well, Coach Kole, what do they call you?
Coach. Most of the time.
Coach Hinton?
Yeah.
Okay,
Hinton
cool.
a lot of times.
There you go.
So.
Well, for the viewers out there, this is my first time meeting you. I don't think we've met before, right? I'm easily confused with my older brother, Logan. Have you met him?
I have met him.
Can
once
you
or
tell
twice.
the difference?
Yeah.
Give me some differences. Kindly.
Well, it's hard. I've only met him during track season like 6 months ago. So
Okay, sure.
I don't even know if I can picture him right now.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, he's got a little less hair than me, but he's way bigger. Dude is yoked. I love you, Logan. We eventually need to do a sports science between the two of us. You remember the sports sciences growing up? Oh, dude. He passed away recently, didn't he? The guy who did that.
All I remember is Klay Thompson shooting in like 0.2 seconds or whatever.
I remember them comparing the sheer force of Ray Lewis and I think it was like a silverback, and it was super close. It was wild. So anyway, well, I'm excited to get to know you because I don't know anything about you. I am on this run of just interviewing coaches apparently right now. Not on purpose, although this one was on purpose. I did Andy Oath, Brandon, and then I think you commented on one of the posts. I was like, all right, football coach up next, which then I'm going to go for Bree, and I'll also see if Rachel wants to get on here as well. Anyways, what other coaches are on staff? You got softball, you got basketball.
Yeah.
Do we still have a golf program?
Yeah, Coach Manise Garth would be the boys. Holly Rohde is the girls.
Okay.
And then Stacy, Garth's wife, is the cross country and track coach.
Okay.
And then you have Trenton Byers, who's our weight room guy, so not necessarily a sport, but he handles all of the summer weight room stuff for all the sports. So
sweet. Yeah. Well, start where you want to start. Where'd you grow up?
Grew up in Columbia. Originally born in Iowa until I was about 7 years old. Moved down to Columbia. And I lived in Columbia on the south side. My brother went to Rockbridge, and then I went to Rockbridge for a couple of years. And then Battle opened up, and we actually moved into the Battle district lines to go there. And so I was the first graduating class out of there.
Wow.
With Coach Conyers as our football coach and all of that.
What year was that?
That was 2013-14 was when I opened, and then the first graduating class was 14-15.
Wow.
So that was really cool. They didn't make seniors transfer for their senior year, obviously. So we got to be kind of like the top dogs for 2 years as juniors and seniors. So that was really cool. We got to like set the culture of what Battle High School was, even though the culture's degraded quite a much from what I've heard.
What ended up, because Battle was a big deal. People moved there to go, and now it feels like it's... What happened? Did they redistrict or rezone?
Well, they've rezoned, and I think the problem is they'll continue to rezone to make sure that certain areas are aligned better than others, even though no one will say that. So, and then, Battle's just kind of the little brother, so to speak, of the priority list of things and stuff like that. So, just the demographics shifted greatly for whatever reason. And I think they've rezoned twice, if I'm not wrong.
Wow.
Since I've been there, and that was only 10 years ago. So it's just changed a lot. And obviously, Conyers leaves, and, a lot of that coaching staff leaves, and just there's a lot of turnover. I think they're on their, fourth AD in 10 years. And there's just a lot of turnover. And I'm not sure, the inner dynamics of all of that, obviously, but just the sports aspect, the standard has definitely been dropped. But the good part is Sean Gaines, who was a couple years older than me at Rockbridge. He's a really good guy, and he just got their head coaching job. So hopefully, at least from a sports aspect, he can kind of change that culture a little bit, doing similar to what I'm trying to do here at Fayette.
Yeah. So grew up in Columbia. Where'd you go? You went to Mill Creek. So where was middle school funneled into there?
I went to Gentry, and then I was part of the junior highs when you had 8th and 9th grade weirdly together, which I still don't understand. But I was at Jeff Jr., and then, like I said, went to Rockbridge, Battle, and all that, and then graduated and came to CMU for a couple
So you came
years.
to Central. Okay.
Yeah.
What made you come over here?
Football, mainly. Football, and then they had a criminal justice program. And my brother's a police officer, or a deputy sheriff, rather, out in Wichita, Kansas. My dad was a police officer way back in the day, so that's kind of what I wanted to do at first before becoming a coach and a teacher. And so they had a good CJ program. and I got a scholarship for football. My first year was with Jody Ford, his last year there, and then my second year was with Callaway with his first year, and so I was there for a semester or a year and a half, and then at semester I transferred my sophomore year to Mizzou and just started coaching and was just kind of done with with football for a while and wanted to start to actually coach. So.
Yeah. So did you move back home then?
Yeah.
And go to Mizzou? Sweet.
Yeah.
Finished out there. What'd you get a degree in?
Secondary education with an emphasis in English, a minor in English, multicultural studies, certificate, things of that nature. So got that, and then certified for English, and then also actually PE as well, but majored in English. So
nice. Did you play football, I assume, all growing up? I mean, Columbia's got a pretty good Pee-wee program, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, my football's just been in our blood. Sports in general as well. Like my mom is in the Hall of Fame at the University of Nebraska Omaha.
Oh wow,
and stuff.
Okay.
So that's just always been something that we've done, and football has just always been the sport that we like the most.
What sport did she get that in?
She got that for basketball. She was a point guard back in the day. Like when she was in high school is when they were still playing like the old 3-on-3.
Sure.
And was, I guess, good at that and got a scholarship, and they didn't even know like what that was at the time and all that. But she was also on the softball team that won the national championship in '75.
Wow.
So yeah, she was a heck of an athlete. My dad got scholarships to play in college and stuff, but he had to stay on the farm and farm. Both my parents are meat and potato, corn farm people up in Iowa.
Nebraska. What part of Iowa?
My mom's from Stanton and my dad is from Clarion, and then I was born in Waukee, which is like western Des Moines.
Okay.
But they also kind of moved kind of all over a little bit. Like I said, all my family's up there. And so
you, I would assume Hawkeye or Cyclone.
Yeah, Hawkeye is what my dad loves for sure. But yeah, so football has just always been the thing. And my brother got to play out at the University of Wyoming for football as well and got a scholarship there and stuff. So, yeah, just
what year did he graduate?
He graduated from Rockbridge in 2010. He graduated a semester early, so I think it's still 2010.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Were they pretty good then?
Rockbridge?
Yeah.
No, they actually, my brother's 3 years of varsity, they were 1-9, 1-9, and then 5-5. And it was kind of after like the Logan Gray era and the Aaron White era, where they were 9-1, 9-1, and all that. And so yeah, they were not very good. They had a lot of talent, he always said, but they were just a cliche like very selfish, very like didn't really play for each other, didn't really want to do what the coaches said, just those type of things. And senior year was okay, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I've always been a Rockbridge hater. I grew up on the north side of Stadium. And so we were Cupies. And I don't know if you've listened to any of the podcasts, but I think I've mentioned my uncle and my cousins are the Nesbitts. So
oh, really?
Greg Nesbitt, who coached Hickman forever.
Yeah.
And just went on a tear in the early 2000s. I went to every single game except for the one game they lost that year that they won state in 2003. So yeah, Ryan Nesbitt is my cousin. Kellen Nesbitt is my cousin. And Ryan's coaching down at Jackson now. Was he at Hickman maybe while you were in?
No, he was over at Troy Buchanan when we were at Hickman.
When you were in high school?
Yeah, he was coaching. It was like his first or second, maybe third year at Troy.
Yeah.
When it was my senior year in high school when we played Troy Buchanan. So
did they beat you? Because he had to flip that program
pretty
hard.
It was like one of their 3 wins that year.
Yeah.
And it was actually pretty close at halftime, but we ended up getting trounced like 55-26 or something like that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, I know of him, because his like best friends like Cedric Alvis, and he was the DC at Battle, and then I followed him actually, and I coached at Hickman for 4 years before going to Rockbridge and stuff. So I've kind of round robin all that, know all them, Justin.
Yeah, Cedric. I wrote about him and Ryan in like my 4th grade journal, hilariously. So Cedric, I remember playing some basketball with him as a kid. Yeah, one of Ryan's best friends. And then funny enough, we go to the same church. Hilariously, like I saw him and I was like, are you Cedric? And we just reminisce. I used to call him Seahawk is what I used to call him, because he was a corner and receiver back at Hickman. So well, cool. So you followed his coaching tree then a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny enough, again, all the small world stuff is he coached me in like 8th grade with like the Columbia Colts when he was just starting. And I just kind of naturally bonded with him. I mean, he's at that time like a 22, 23-year-old kid, really,
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
coach, and I just really liked him. And then when I went to battle, I was like, oh, I kind of linked up with him, and I always just had an admiration for him. And then when I came back to Mizzou, I was like, hey, I want to start coaching. Do you like, can I come on staff with you? Obviously, Justin's the head coach and stuff, but he's like, yeah, I'll take you on, and kind of took me under his wing. And I was super grateful for that because we've always had a really good, mentor mentee relationship. And I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's a brilliant football coach and stuff. And, obviously it didn't work out, super well at Hickman for him. But I think that, as someone who's in the midst of it, like, it is hard to turn around a culture and things like that. And so,
well, especially if the district rezones on you twice.
yeah.
He's a good guy. Is he at Rockbridge now?
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
Yeah, he's at Rockbridge. His wife's at Rockbridge as well. She's the softball coach,
Yeah.
and he's been there for 3, 4, maybe 5 years, something like that.
So you talked when you went to Mizzou is when you really started focusing on coaching. Is that when you started to want to coach, or have you always wanted to be into coaching?
I don't know. I mean, like, talking to my mom, like, we always had conversations about the future and things like that, and I always told her I was going to be a police officer, an engineer, or a teacher.
Wow.
That was just always what I was into.
Why engineer? I mean, I get the police officer thing, but what's the engineer come from?
I think I always had an interest in, like, STEM and things like that. And I think I'm a pretty intelligent guy. I would like to think,
Sure.
I'm good with numbers and things like that. Just, same as my father. And I think that I would just be really good at that. The problem is I just wasn't very creative. So, like, if you need me to build a bridge, I can do the numbers for you. But if you want me to make it look pretty, I'm like...
If you're like, invent a bridge, you're like...
Yeah, And so I think it was just one of those things that, like, I liked it and I enjoyed it, but I didn't want to make, like, a career out of it and stuff. And so, coaching is just teaching. And I think that, you can really impact kids in a different way than you can in the classroom. And so having that relationship and honestly, like, a credit to Cedric and other people that I've had as coaches, like, I want to have that sort of relationship with other kids. Like, when I was going through things, obviously I went to my parents, but some things you don't go to your parents for.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so,
or your parents will tell you the right answer and you just don't hear it the same way.
Yeah, exactly. And so you go to someone else that you look up to and stuff. Like, I remember, like, he's came and, like, picked me up a few times from just situations that I'm like, I need someone to just come talk to or whatever. And, that impacted me a lot growing up. And that was just kind of one of those things that, like, when I realized that my playing career was coming to an end, and I wanted to still be around the game and impact people in a certain way, I was like, well, I want to impact them before they get to the squad car. So maybe let's do, like, a teaching route and a coaching route and things like that. And just wanted to have a good impact. And I also had, like, negative influences as well from coaching and being like, well, I don't want kids to go through maybe what I've gone through with this coach or that coach or this experience or whatever. And so I want to provide a positive experience with something that's a really fun game. I mean, football, in my opinion, is the ultimate team game. And I think that it can teach you lessons that other sports can't, that others aren't amazing. Like, I love basketball, but I just think that there's something special about football. And so if that's such a unique experience, I want people to have a positive, unique experience with that. So,
yeah. So overall, would you say your coaching, at least the coaches that you had growing up, were mostly positive or negative experiences?
Yeah, I think it was about 50-50. I mean, I don't think any of them were, like, detrimentally negative or anything like that. I just think it's kind of like I was pretty aware at a younger age of, like, how people were treated and how people, like, talked to one another and things like that. And there was just a certain level of, like, man, like, I don't feel super welcomed or respected or loved and cared for. Like, and not everyone's going to be amazing at those things I get. There are very much, like, my way or the highway, like, Nesbitt type style. Like, sure. I'm like, this is the standard and I don't have time for your feelings. Like, older style coaching compared to maybe newer style coaching and things like that. And I just never really gelled with the, yell at me and tell me what to do, but never, like, come alongside me after a mistake type of deal. Like, I just never gelled with that. And, I even remember my brother talked about that out of Wyoming. Like, he's the same way. And he's like, I mess up one time and I'm getting MF'd up and down the sideline by my O-line coach. And he's like, that's not going to help motivate me. Like, I don't want to play harder for you and things like that. And so, I've never got MF, to be clear, but, like, those type of experiences I just didn't really gel with. And so, some of them were good, some of them were bad. And, you try to replicate the things that people did well and then stay away from the things that people didn't do well and give them grace and forgiveness and love them. And it's okay too. Like,
yeah, I think that's always this is some of the conversation we've had with some of the coaches in the past of there's kind of that my way or the highway, almost a Belichickian
Yeah.
mindset, but there's credibility that comes with that too. But I remember as a kid, and this is where like me as a leader now is I think motivating my team is, and maybe I'm dealing with adults versus kids, but I think motivation is not my job. It is not my job to motivate you. Like you should be pretty self-motivated and I'm going to help you course correct. But I remember in high school for me, when I would get shooed, because most of my coaching experience growing up, coaches that I had were negative. And it actually is what I wanted to originally be, like an athletic director was what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Which obviously makes sense. I didn't love my coaching experience. So if I can help build a culture of good coaches, that's a great thing. But I remember just getting chewed out for things, like especially in baseball. Like if I didn't throw a strike or if I like didn't hit the ball well, I'm like, do you think I'm up here not trying to like, I needed somebody. What I wish I would have had is there's a lot of coaches that were maybe it's, again, you do it kid by kid, but there's a lot of coaches that I think they would bark because they thought that was motivation. And what I needed in the moment was somebody to help me like turn on my brain and go, here's what you're mechanically doing wrong. Like, do you find that a lot with some of these football kids, especially because I don't know, how long have you been a coach here in Fayette?
This will be year 3.
Year 3. So you probably haven't had a ton of time to develop program from the bottom up. So you're getting a ton of different, fundamental skills as you come up. Do you find yourself having to coach on motivation, or is there some light bulb moments where you're like, hey, you're just not stepping back fast enough on this guard position or whatever? What's been some of your experience there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mixed bag. I mean, I think you can pretty easily tell the kids who are motivated.
Sure.
And those kids are the kids that I not like the best, but they're the easiest to coach because like it is just a lot more technique. Like I'm taking you from being a good football player to a great football player. And I think all coaches like want that. I mean, all kids want an entire, squad of Carter Romans. I mean, they just like, obviously, right? And I enjoy that because it's the part that I was always good at with football, because I was never super talented, but I was athletic and good enough to, win awards and things like that and earn scholarships because I knew like the technical aspects and the little details and the how can I get you from, being a step faster to 2 steps faster, those type of things.
Yeah,
and so,
your engineering is kind of coming into play there.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I enjoy doing that aspect, but then there's other kids who like, you just have to motivate them to like want to come out or to like try or to give their best effort, or like getting them to understand like, why do I need to do these things? Why can't I just show up and play football? And I think that's the harder part of coaching that you have, and the hard part to not to get frustrated with, because it's like you are here, so you have some level of motivation. Like you are here, that like I want to give you credit for that, but also like, how do I get you to be intrinsically motivated to want to be better and to understand the bigger picture of, I can't just show up like CYFL, Columbia Youth Football League, and show up on Saturday, get my juice box and play the game and go home. Like I've got to study film, and I've got to make sure I know my plays, and I've got to know right from left. Like those things are important. And I think just giving people a different mindset, because I am such an intellectual type person, that I want you to understand why you're doing these things and how it all works together. I'm not going to be the just my way or the highway, like tell you what to do. There's a time and place for that when it comes to, this is your gap, I need you to run full speed through it. But for the most part, it's like understanding all of those things. And I think it's hard because if you don't have a culture of learning in like period, it's very hard. And so we want our team to be a very learner mindset. And I want to take that same thing in the classroom. And so it's across the board with kid development. It's not just sports. It's not just school. It's not just home. Like it's all of the above, like getting kids to want to learn and understand and figure out how it all works together to be the most well-rounded person and athlete that they can be. And not just, again, like, well, why do I have to do this or whatever?
Yeah. Well, especially in a small school, the my way or the highway, you can't send them all on the highway, and you're probably dealing with a larger chunk of your people that are out there because mom and dad are making them be out there, which, by the way, I'll probably do that to my kids too. So like there's I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but you're having to not at least in a bigger school, you can go, all right, here are my people that are here to play, know how to play, and you can probably fit a full roster on that. I think in a small school, you're lucky if you have a couple that are in that. At least I remember that in baseball, we were lucky if we had a couple that had been playing longer than high school anyway. So that's interesting. What are you teaching here at the high school?
Freshman and sophomore English.
English.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what you got your degree in? Was it English? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Why was I thinking engineer? Is that part of STEM? Yeah, it is, right?
What?
The STEM, STEM is E, the English?
E is engineering.
Engineering. Oh, okay, my bad.
Science, technology, engineering.
Don't laugh at me.
Mathematics.
Somebody else was asking the same question. Who else would know? Listen, I was raised in the Common Core education of Columbia, Missouri. Never knew what STEM was, and now I'm here, so whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I was first class in Paxton over there in Columbia.
Nice.
And then was at Smithton for 1 year before I hopped on over to old Fayette Middle School here. So, well, talk to me about how you got the job over here and just your first few years here.
Well, got the job from being the offensive coordinator at Rockbridge for a year.
Nice.
Matt Perkins was his first year over there. He was looking for a guy to help him kind of run his offense and things like that. So I moved from Hickman to be with him and got a lot of good experience with him. And then wanted to kind of try out the head coaching role, see what that looks like. I think part of like the learner and the wanting to grow mindset is trying to challenge yourself. And I've never grown up, as confident as I was going to be one of those three things growing up. I never was like, man, I can't wait to be a head coach. I enjoy it now, but like I also could care less about being the guy in the front seat. I've always actually viewed myself as someone who's a really, really good piece. So if you're the guy in charge, I'll be your right-hand man all day long. You can count on me. If there's an absence, I can totally step into your role because we're in lockstep. But I think that there's something about learning what does it look like to be that lead guy, so you understand what that looks like. And I enjoy it. I think I'm learning to be better at it. And so that's kind of, where I wanted to shift into a different gear and get that experience and things like that. The first few years have been good. I mean, I've learned a lot. I mean, I've learned more about what it means to run a program than I would have anywhere else. So it's been phenomenal experience. I mean, I've learned from making graphics on Canva by myself to like getting the black and gold gala idea like up and running, even though Stacy Manise, to be clear, has taken that and ran with it. Like just anything that you want done with your program, like that would be cool if we did that. Well, you've got to do that. Like, I mean, you have assistant coaches, but ultimately, like, it comes down to you and getting that done and how do you work that into your schedule and things like that. So from a program and a head coaching aspect, it's been really good. Obviously, from a win standpoint, it hasn't been great. We've only won 4 games the last 2 years, going 2-8 the last 2. And that's been hard, obviously, coming from Rockbridge, where we won a conference championship and we're 9-3 or whatever we were. And, coming from Battle as well, winning a state championship and things like that, like knowing what it looks like to be great and knowing what it takes to be great, and then trying to instill that in other people. And that's like the motivation part that you're talking about that we have to deal with a little bit more with athletes. Like, you don't know what this looks like. Like, we haven't been there. And I don't, I'm not Bill Belichick. I don't have 7 rings, but like I know a little bit about a little bit,
Right.
And so that's been kind of the struggle of trying to get that winning mindset into our athletes, and not just the people who want it or are going to buy in or be here over the summer or whatever. Like everybody needs that, from the scout team kid, the 33rd kid on your team to the first kid.
Yeah.
And that's
Is that how many are on the roster this year?
So this year we have a dip. We have 26, I think, on the roster.
Ooh.
The 2 previous years we've had 32 or 33. But our
You still have time to get people out?
Well, yeah, I mean,
okay.
they can come out. I mean, really whenever. I mean,
Do they still have to have a certain amount of practice?
Yeah, that's the problem. Is we have 15 practices to get 14, but we had last year some kids who came out late and they just missed the first 2 games, and that's okay. I mean, it's not great, but I'd much rather that happen than you just be like, it's too late, I'm not going to come. So, but our now a sophomore class, that's what's kind of really killed us, because we only have 36 kids in that whole class period.
Wow. So just a small class.
Yeah. And so we have a few athletes, but I don't think that they have quite the camaraderie of like, hey, let's all go play football. Only maybe 1 or 2 want to, and the other one's like, I'd rather hang out and stuff. So that's kind of been detrimental. And my first year when I got here was the same thing. Our senior class, the senior class was big, but we only had 3 football players
Wow.
from that senior class.
Who was in that? Who were
That
your
was
3?
like Bryce Callahan, Colton Nation, Christian Pulliam, Little Crispy.
Yep.
There was only 3 of them. And then even
Wow.
then, our junior class, we had 6. So I think it's hard when, as a football coach, at least class 1, the ideal, I mean, the phenomenal piece to be at would be 40 and have 10 per class. Obviously, that's not realistic, but.
So we're class 1 now in football?
Yeah.
I feel like we were class 2. Or have we always been class 1? Do you know the history?
I don't know. I mean, it's been 1 for a while. But honestly, like, we might be going towards 8-man, like, not to scare listeners, but like, that's why we got out of the Lewis and Clark conference and started a new conference, because so many of them were going to 8-man. We didn't want to have to follow suit.
Why didn't you want to follow suit? And does it feel like a failure to have to go to 8-man to you?
I don't know. I mean, that conversation was like right before I got here. Like, I didn't even know we were switching conferences till after our first year. And I was like, oh, okay. Like,
great, cool.
Sounds good. Just because I also got hired late too. Like, I didn't get hired until I think April my first year. So, that definitely doesn't help not having kind of a spring period and things like that. But I've actually asked myself that question, like, is it a failure to go to 8-man? Like, and I don't think it's a failure, but I think it is looked at from the community like, well, we've been 8-man or we've been 11-man our whole lives. Sure. Like, we don't need to do. I think there's just a stigma behind it, but I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing, because Slater did that and they went 7-5 and won a district championship, or were in this championship game or whatever last year. So
yeah, it's interesting because that's like, the community can be frustrated about it, but it's a reflection of the community, whether kids are going out or whether we have enough people in the school system.
Right.
And then it kind of goes back to that conversation too of, would we rather play 11-man and everyone gets hurt and we never win a game? Is that good for kids, or is it better for us to go play 8-man and actually win some games? Right. I don't know. I haven't thought about that.
Well, and I think the hardest part with that is like what we're struggling with right now is just having enough like linemen, like just enough bigger type bodies. I mean, we have enough, country strong type
26,
kids.
Right?
Yeah.
That does not give you a lot of room for injuries, grades.
Yeah.
This doesn't give you much room for anything.
Yeah.
10 games?
Yep.
At least?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
stay healthy, folks. Get in the weight room.
Yeah. Well, and when you only have 7 linemen,
right,
or maybe even have 8 or 9, but
playing both
3
sides
are freshmen, and they've never played, or 2 people didn't play last year, and they're like,
dude, that's where I'm
hard.
like, get rid of special teams. I hate special teams. That's where everybody dies, and it's not worth it.
Yeah.
The kick return's fun, whatever.
Yeah.
For the fast guys, but as one of the fat guys, just get crushed.
Yeah.
I got leveled by some Hallsville kid my senior year. Started my back problems, then had a back surgery a couple years later. So, what's some of the what are some, obviously in your first couple of years, is it 2 games a year, or was it like 1 and then 3? What's it looking like?
Yeah, it was just 2 and 8 both years.
2 and 8 both years.
Yeah.
What kind of criticism are you catching? Or shade for Gen Z?
Yeah.
You're Gen Z, aren't you?
I think the biggest thing is just like, I feel like there's a little bit of like, you kind of come in here, you're younger, like, and try to tell everybody what to do, which is my job as the head coach.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a look at it of like, you're younger, you may not know all the things that you know. Like you may not have as much credibility. Like, I didn't come from someplace winning 7 state titles. Like,
sure.
And so I think that that's a big piece of it, and especially with like, just maybe like the older parents and things like that, especially like this is how we used to do it type of deal, as opposed to
what are some specifics there? Because usually criticism usually comes with not a lot of like actual criticism. Like, it's really easy to go, hey, 2 and 8 isn't good. Like, congrats, It's like a food critic going to McDonald's, be like, this isn't the best burger I had. Well, no crap, it's not. Yeah. But so it's easy to be a critic when things aren't successful. When they talk about this is the way we used to do it, what are they talking about?
Well, I just think like, like for us, when we came in, I adopted the same style that we had at Rockbridge, where it was an empty type backfield, but we still tried to run the ball. It just looked different, and I had people that were just like, well, why don't we run this and this and that? And I'm like, well, we're actually kind of doing the same thing. It just looks different to you because we don't have 3 fullbacks and, split wishbone. Like, it just looks different,
Not power type.
Yeah, and so like, I think in their mind, it's like, well, you just line up 8 men on line of scrimmage and you just run down the middle 12 times a game. It's like, well, again, that's great. But when we have 5 linemen and 3 are hurt and 2 of them are lighter than Carter.
Yeah.
Like,
we got to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Quickly.
Yeah, so I think just things like that, or things like, well, like, why does my kid have to do this or that or whatever? And it's like, well, like they need to watch film before they play on Friday. Like they need to do whatever. I mean, it's just there's specific things that it's just like, this is a standard, but we don't think that should be the standard. It's like, well, that's great, but the standard's not going to change. Like, as long as I'm here, like it's going to be what it's going to be, and that's what it's going to take to win football. If you don't want to do that, then we're not going to be successful. And we've had, to give credit, like we've had a lot of kids try, and we've had buy-in and things like that. I don't want to just focus on the negative, because we have had kids who have busted their butt and laid it out on the line every night, but we haven't had enough of those kids. We've had enough kids that have caused distractions or things like that that aren't being productive. And so ultimately, like when we talk about my way or the highway, reading the book by John Gordon, The Power of a Positive Team, like the ultimate goal of people who are maybe like negative or not bought in is not to just like kick them all out. The goal is to transform them. And that's what we're trying to do. It's just you get to a point where it's like, okay, well, you're refusing to get on the bus. Now we've got to probably, separate our ways. And, over the last 2 years, we've only had to do that with like 2 or 3 kids. But there's enough that are kind of in that box of like, well, are you going to be transformed, or are we going to do the same thing that we've done the last year or maybe 2 years or whatever? And I think this 3rd year is not like crucial with like, are you going to get fired or whatever? But like, I think it's crucial with, are we going to take another step, and are we going to buy in, or are we not? And we've really honed in on focused on our culture and our positivity and this is the standard type of a deal. And so hopefully it'll pay off. Now, whether that pays off in wins or not, we don't know yet, but ultimately, are we building the kids to be successful people outside of school through the game of football, right? Like that's the ultimate goal. Yeah. And obviously we'd like to win ball games and things like that at the end of the day, but are you going to buy into this idea of like, this is what it means to do the right thing at all times, to have integrity, honesty, like all those things. So
yeah, what will trending in the right direction look like to you this year?
I think the big thing is attendance. Like that's first and foremost. And I think, Cedric always said, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Right. And so I think tracking that stuff as much as possible is important, because I think like our generation, which is something I'm sure we'll talk about as well, like I think that, we get so worried of like, oh, well, like my kid only had this attendance and like you're putting him on blast and whatever. And it's like, well, I'm not putting him on blast. I'm just
attendance. Are you talking about crowd attendance or student?
Like
show up to school?
Participation, like in summer weights or practice or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So attendance with that. So, like tracking that stuff. Hey, we've got a roster of 26 kids. 13 of them had 75% or less attendance. Well, that's a C. So half of your team has a C in just showing up. Yeah. Not even talking about lifting a weight or whatever, And we've only had 3 kids who were 90% or above, like that's hard, especially when like I keep tabs on other coaches that I know and am close with, or our conference Central State 8. Like I talk to them and I go, hey, what do your weight room numbers look like? Things like that. Now they could be lying and just being like, yeah, we have 100% from all 50 kids. But like comparing those numbers and things like that, like, hey, they have 80% attendance across the board. Well, they won 80% of their games. Like that there is a correlation there. And so I think tracking that stuff is important, and you'll see the trend by those numbers hopefully increasing, And I think it's hard too. Again, we talk about Class 1 over the summer, you've got baseball going on, basketball, football, like you have other things, which is totally understandable.
Dead week.
Right. But ultimately, like we want to track these things to see like, is there a correlation? Is there not? What does it look like? And do those habits who, maybe people aren't busy with other stuff. They're only a football kid, like, and they're only here 50% of the time. Like, is that habit going to translate into the season? Most often than not, it does, know? So I think, again, to answer the question, like that's what the trending in the right direction will look like. Just first and foremost, are we buying into showing up? Yeah. And then we'll talk about like the standards we have for our team.
Yeah, my mind's going to like thinking about Ryan flipping Troy, which is obviously a huge school, but like Troy before he got there was known for like its fine arts programs. Like I remember I was a singer in high school, and I would go to these places and it was Troy Buchanan everywhere. It was just all Troy people. So like I'm curious, have you studied some tactics from coaches that have flipped programs like that? And what are some big indicators? Because I'm thinking, only because I know of these people. Like, I don't know if you followed my Uncle Greg retiring from Truman State,
Yeah.
going straight to Kirksville.
Yeah.
Now, it helps that, my little cousin Blake is a absolute dog at dunking on people as a freshman. But
Yeah.
so like he's got some athletes, but I'm just thinking about like do you think Nesbitt Greg took the same my way or the highway approach when we went to Kirksville? What are some tactics you've seen coaches that have been able to flip small programs? Because Troy's not small, but even like I would assume Jackson hasn't always won all the time. Like when did those things flip, and how did they flip? Have you studied any of those tactics?
Yeah.
So attendance being one of them, probably.
Yeah, and Jackson hadn't won. The guy who was there before, I can't remember his name, like Bailey.
But it was a legendary program before Ryan got there, right?
Correct, right. But the guy who was there, like he's the one who they went from 1-9 to all of a sudden 10 years in a row they're doing amazing, and that's why he retired and went to Arkansas and all that. But and I actually talked to Greg this offseason at some clinics and things like that, and kind of picked his brain a little bit. I think ultimately, like that's where when does the my way or the highway come into place? And ultimately, like it's not up to you. Like, and I think that's a scary part as coaches. Like we want to have control. Like, well, I'm going to flip the program. Ultimately, it's not up to you. You can do your absolute best of this is the standard. I'm going to love your kid. I'm going to do like all the right things. But ultimately, like they still have to show up and they still have to buy in. Right. They still have to have the parent support and things like that. And so I think that's where where do you implement the my way or the highway? And I think that he has done that. And they're like, well, this is the standard. Like the standard is you show up or you don't play, or the standard is you get in the weight room or you're not going to be starting. Like that, I think is the biggest piece of when you're starting a program. What does it look like? What are the non-negotiables? And then what are the wiggle room things, right? I don't care what jerseys we wear Friday night. I don't care what arm sleeve, but the non-negotiable is at practice, this is what practice looks like. In meetings, this is what meetings look like. In talking to each other, this is what it looks like. Like that's the non-negotiable stuff, because that is going to be, the most important things when it comes to being an athletic powerhouse. And so, and I guess the last example would be like with Ryan at Troy. I know that he fired a lot of his middle school coaches because they would not run, at least from what I've heard, like his offense, right? And so if you're preparing kids at the middle school level to be high school athletes come freshman year and you refuse to run our offense, like I can't go down there and force you to coach the kids that way. But if which apparently he has that power, and a lot of bigger schools, you kind of have that.
Right.
And also little schools as well. But
you don't have that power yet.
Correct. Not the actual hire fire. Right. Yeah. But okay, then you're just not going to be part of our program, because this is what I want our team to look like as a high school. Our middle school needs to be a feeder program. And if you refuse to do that, then I'm going to find someone else who can. I mean, that's the same thing with just coaches on your staff in general.
Right.
I need you to teach running backs this way. And if you won't do that, then
did you get to pick an assistant staff as you came in?
Yes and no. When I got here, Andy Bentley and Garth Manise had been here for 10 years coaching and things like that. And so it's just kind of here's your assistant coaches, right? Again, we don't have the authority to fire them necessarily or anything like that, because where are you going to get your other coaches from then? You know what I mean? We don't have the luxury of people knocking down our door looking for a job and things like that. So we partly take what we can get, but we also partly are looking for what we have. And so, they were good coaches my first year. They both decided to step away. Andy's got a little kid that he wanted to kind of spend more time with. Garth stepped into the AD role. And then Trenton came on the first year as well, because Micah went to Boonville. And so we had those two, and then those two left. And so we're like, okay, now we have these vacancies. How can we try to get a coach in the building? What teaching jobs do we have open?
Yeah, do they have to be a teacher to be an assistant coach for you?
No, they don't have to. I mean, it's kind of like a preferential order. If they can be a math teacher and coach football and other sports as well, that's ideal, right? But if we have someone who, you said, I've got a lot of knowledge in whatever sport it is, I want to come volunteer. We have avenues for that. And that's what we did with some coaches my first year, Coach, Quan Jones wanted to come up to the high school, and he'd been coaching at the middle school for a couple levels or a couple years or whatever. And I was like, okay, well, we don't necessarily have a position or a stipend or whatever for you, but if you want to volunteer, we have an avenue for you and standards for those coaches and things like that. But
Quan was a beast in high school.
Yeah.
absolute beast.
So
So is he? So what's your assistant staff look like now then?
yeah, so well, we ended up getting Coach Van Dyke came on with us
Okay.
last year. He was a middle school counselor, and he played with Trenton at CMU.
Cool.
And so he's always kind of wanted to coach, but never really was the right time. So when Andy and Gar stepped away, we took him on, and it wasn't really like a, well, I don't know. It was like, yeah, he's a guy that would be amazing for us. He's in the district already. It was a perfect fit. And then we got a guy who actually reached out to me from Mizzou, who was same thing as me, like was still in college but wanted to start coaching and things
Yeah.
like that. And so that's who we had last year. That one unfortunately didn't work out, so we parted ways with him. But then we were able to pick up Coach Finley. So we have me, Van Dyke, and Trenton still from the last year, and then we picked up Coach Finley, who has been kind of all over. He was at Carrollton as the head coach for a while. He was at Lafayette for the head coach for a while, and then most recently he's been at Penny High School in Hamilton, being their special teams coordinator. And
Wow. So now he's here teaching.
yeah, now he's here being a PE teacher, and
Okay.
then he actually took over our offensive coordinator position.
Okay, yeah. So map out the tree for me right now. You at the head.
Yeah, so I at the head, I gave over OC duties to him. He's had 20 years of experience. Kind of trusted him to take that. I've taken over the defensive side
Is
to
that
be
your
the
side of the
DC.
ball, DC?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I coach wide receivers and DBs. All of our coaches obviously coach both sides. So wide receivers, DBs. Finley does quarterbacks, and then kind of helps out wherever on defense that we might need. So right now he's at safeties. Coach Byers has been our O-line guy, and then our linebackers coach. And then Van Dyke is our running backs and D-line coach. So we've got just us four. Quan had to step away as well this year. So we've got us four, and then we've got our middle school staff has changed as well. So
If you could build it out where money didn't matter, how would you build out? How many spots would you have? Or maybe maybe what the model looks like from your old schools. But yeah, if you could dream with no money attached, what would you make that tree look like?
still a class one, or
Yeah, class one.
yeah,
Your
I
current
think-
situation, but money doesn't matter.
right. I mean, obviously, I think you have like one coach for every position, but I think also having 30 coaches for 30 kids is a lot, So I think ideally like 6 would be a good number. I think just having 2 more, and that way, like for us, like we have an H-back spot. Well, we don't necessarily have a coach for that one specific position, and they don't really have anything on the defensive side of the ball. So I think that's kind of the weird part. But if you had 2 more guys, you could do, DNs and interior linemen, right? Like Coach Van Dyke was never an edge rusher, but if you had someone who, like, at Battle, we had Atia Ellison and we had Carlos Hall, who both played in the NFL. Atia took the inside guys, Coach Hall took the edge rushers, and that was phenomenal for us, right? So you could break up things like that. You could break up safeties and corners. You could break up inside linebackers, outside linebackers. Again, at some point you have too many because, if you only got 6 linebackers, you got 2 in each group. Do you really need to do that?
Might have more coaches than players.
Yeah,
after.
that differentiated, like not really, So I think 2 would just be a little bit more helpful. And even like what people I think don't realize, it's not even necessarily like coaching throughout the week. It's just having more eyes that are football oriented on a Friday night, right? Like I love all my coaches. I think they're phenomenal, but Coach Byers only has 2 years of experience. Coach Van Dyke only has 2 years of experience, right? Or really 1 year actually. So even though they have football experience, like coaching is very different. And so me being the veteran of having, 8 years without Coach Finley, who's got 20, like seeing something on a Friday night is hard to do if you don't know where you're looking or it's new to you or whatever. Like for me, I was calling plays the first year from the sideline. And that's hard to do. I mean, it just is. Unless you have a phenomenal guy who's in the box who can really tell you exactly what's going on with the defense. They know their offense as intimately as you do. Like, it's just hard, right? And it's not necessarily anyone's fault. It's just the reality of the situation. And so having Coach Finley take over our offense and get to put him up in the booth, like if I was just an OC like I was at Rockbridge, like I would stay in the booth 1,000%. It's just a lot easier to see the game. So I think that would just help, just having more eyes on the box for someone who doesn't have to be necessarily here giving signals. They can be getting a different angle 30 yards down the field looking at the backside. So just those type of things would help.
Yeah.
So,
And that kind of role could be a volunteer role of
yeah.
just once a week, right? They come on a Friday night and just show you what they're seeing from a football experience standpoint.
Right.
What kind of things with what do you think is possible that you don't have that you wish you had in Fayette?
just in general.
Maybe related to your coaching, but you can do in general too. That's
Right. Well, I mean,
yeah.
like things that we don't have. I don't know. I mean, I think that we're pretty well supported for the most part. I mean, like, when I walked in, we had phenomenal like equipment and things like that. Like we've been financially like well stable. There's not been any like piece of equipment that we haven't had. I think it's really just the buy-in of like the community and like the kids and things like that. Like numbers is what I want. Like when you ask that question, it's numbers, but we can't. I mean, can't buy numbers. So
You could throw a party on a Friday night, spend
yeah,
some money, get some
yeah.
people out there.
So I think that's the biggest thing is just we need more numbers. And like I said, like
More numbers of people
just
going out for
participating. Yeah,
football.
yeah. And I think the part that I'd like the most is a little bit more streamlined from again like middle school running our playbook, which they are,
Yeah.
which has been good. But like even the younger kids, right? Like now, is it a huge difference the fact that they're running split back wishbone versus like our spread offense? Not a huge difference, but the reason why Jeff City is a powerhouse every year, maybe not so much lately, but in the 90s, early 2000s, is because they are running the same thing over the same years over and over and over. So when you say, we're going gun split left, they know what you're talking about because they've heard it since third grade. Like that, I think would help us. And so we're trying to get those things slowly rolling, but it's also hard too because you can't explain to other people like, hey, this is what I want you to do for the high school level if they don't know what it is. So you have to coach coaches. And I think that's another thing that I've learned of like, what does it look like to coach coaches to be able to coach?
Yeah.
And
maybe that's where some of like the hard part of like your personality, you said like you're pretty good at being the backup singer if you need to be or knowing your place in a room. That my way or the highway with a place that you're not from.
Yeah.
And people who've been coaching longer than you is probably hard to hold, but
yeah.
Has that been a struggle?
At times and things like that, like for instance, like when I first got here, I was like, man, the youth program needs to run what we do. And I think the Optimist does a phenomenal job getting kids out for football. Like from what I've heard of where that started when they took over to now, like they're having to turn kids away because they have too much, which is phenomenal.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Let's figure out how we can stop doing that.
Right.
Can we have two?
Yeah.
Or a Howard County team, I don't know.
Exactly. And so, but talking with them about like, here's like our offense is what I want to do. And like, just a lot of like, well, like the big thing, like, well, like little kids can't really pull. Like when you're talking about like running power or running buck
pulling
sweep,
a guard?
right? Yeah.
They can't pull?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, that was my question. Like,
okay,
well,
so that's what they said.
Yeah, it's like, well, why? And I think at the end of the day, it's just feeling comfortable teaching, which I totally understand from their perspective. Like, I don't really know how to do that, but it's like, well, are you willing to like let me teach you to do those things and things like that, and also understand it's not going to be perfect, but I think there's also a level of like, well, we want them to have a good time, and if we can win a lot of games, like they'll have a good time, and so I know this offense, so we're going to run this offense, and there's like being hamstrung with like the rules of the youth league that they have, like you have to line up directly in front of people, like you can't like line up in the shade and stuff, and so if you pull a guy, it's easier for him to maybe chase that guy, and so like I get
Is that the same way in like CYFL too?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure,
but
okay.
like so like there's dynamics with it, but understand like it's not going to look pretty, like, and who cares? Like we want the kids to just know what they're doing and be happy that they're having a good time and want to continue to play football. Like that's all. And fundamentals, like that's all that we're doing up until high school. Like, because ultimately,
so that's what I was going to ask you: is when do you think that line is on when it matters that it starts looking pretty and produces wins?
Yeah,
you think high school?
Yeah, I mean, I like middle school as well, because I think there's an easy drop off for. Well, I played middle school because it's still enough. Like, we can win games. Like middle school is able to win games because they give it to Blake Braden 40 times a night, and he's just running around everybody.
And nobody learned anything.
Yeah. And that's well and good, but. You still don't win state championships for middle school football. So like there needs to be a level, like a gradual level of winning games, but also understanding like, in middle school, based on our numbers, we just might not win a lot of games, but we have a really talented team, just maybe the teams we're playing against. And so I think perspective is just a big thing that we need to have, that I think a lot of people just lack of having. Like you said, like it's easy to look at 2-8 and be like, well, you're terrible. Well, okay, yeah, but let's look at it from a perspective of how many kids we have, how many have been here, like how many linemen do we have, like just those type of things.
Yeah. That's probably a hard. You got to have some overall self-security and confidence at the lower level to just defer, because I'm sure the parent pressure is obnoxious at every level.
Yeah.
to defer caring about winning for your fourth, fifth, even sixth, seventh, and eighth graders, including the leadership. Like if you're somebody who hires a middle school coach and they're not winning games, but they're running offenses well and they're teaching kids, like you should probably be okay with them not winning well, because at least I don't know what your experience was, but as far as what I can recall of my memories of sports, not a ton prior to high school. Just as I think that's just the condition of being a human being. You're not going to remember all of those things. I do remember almost winning state as a 12-year-old in baseball, but outside of that, I think that's probably got to be pretty hard. Like, did you ever coach at the lower level and like the middle school stuff too? Was that kind of a hard thing to do? Is just go like, hopefully the wins come, but we're going to teach you guys how to be great football players and learners.
Yeah, not at the middle school. My first year coaching at Battle, I was just a JV assistant, and then also their D coordinator, which was just thrown into that role. But my last year at Hickman, I transitioned from being the receivers coach and the special teams coordinator to the freshman head coach, and it was very similar to this. I had 2 assistants. We had 23 kids. And, we went 3-5. We had athletes. I mean, the athletes that we had, I'm thinking of it. Brock Camp just signed to go to Colorado State. He was a tight end for Hickman. We had him as a freshman. We could have thrown the ball to him 70 times a game and won the game. But does that develop anything else? Yeah. No. So you look at our schedule and you're like, man, you went 3-5 or whatever it was, and you had all these athletes. Yeah, but we're trying to get them to be prepared for high school. Like, again, throwing the ball to Brock 40 times doesn't help. Giving the ball to Kenyon Martin, who is a phenomenal running back. I mean, he's like a mini bowling ball as a freshman, can run faster than anybody else on the team. That doesn't help either. Like, now it doesn't mean like, well, okay, well, you're never going to get the ball. Yeah. But it just means like trying to make it as authentic as it is going to be in high school and spread the love around and make sure that we're teaching the fundamentals as well, and not just, well, yeah, you scored, but you ran around everybody. Well, no, I need you to understand that this play hits right here, because you can do that now, but everyone's just as fast as you as a freshman, or as a sophomore, rather. So you need to understand what this is actually looking like. And so, I think that, bringing that mindset into like the middle school level is very important. And even like our JV games as well, like, especially when we play a half, like we lose 7-4 or whatever it is, like, okay, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, did you get reps as a game live situation that you don't get on Friday night?
Yeah. And are you able to help those kids understand that too?
Yeah. I mean, we preach it, whether they
whether they understand it or not. Yeah. 26 kids. Do you know how many even young men are available in the high school total?
Yeah, I think we have 180 students, give or take.
Right.
And so, half of those being male, so 60 or 90.
Let's call it maybe half of, like a little bit shy of 50% would be like 80.
Right. And so
we're getting 25% of the dudes out.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And the teams that, are successful are able to, for whatever reason, get, 50% of the boys playing. I mean, like Marceline has like 45, 50 dudes on their team, and they've got 60 kids in the school. Like, it's insane, but they have a tradition, and their school expects them to win, but not just we expect you to win, but we expect you to win because you're not going to just miss a practice because it's your birthday. Like, you're going to like all those things. So,
has the coach at Marceline been there a while?
They actually just went back to, it was Joey Peterson for a couple years. Their previous coach was at Southern Boone, Mark Ross. He was the guy that beat us in 21 or 18 or whatever that was, that state semifinal game. And he went to Southern Boone, has been there for 3 or 4 years, and he actually just went back. So, but he didn't even interview for the job. Like, we want you back because, again, like, you're the standard of what it is.
I guess, some of this is on philosophy. I'm like, how do you build the tradition of a program like Marceline has? I mean, they have a sick stadium. I remember that. I felt like I was walking into Mizzou Stadium. There's got to be some trademark stuff there too. But, you feel like you're walking into, like, besides the town of Marceline, because I think Fayette's bigger than Marceline as a town. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Can you look that up, Cody?
They're at least comparable.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're a bigger town.
Yeah.
We have a college in our town. Population of Marceline, Missouri.
Yeah. Because ours is like 2,000 or just under or something like that.
It should be like in the mid 2000s, I thought. And if you count our zip code, it's like 4,500.
I'm seeing I'm seeing 2,130 since 2020.
Yeah, so very comparable.
Yeah.
And we at least have a college here.
Yeah. I think that the first step in what we've been doing the last 3 years, whether people realize or not, like in the background, is just getting the systems in place, I think, to be successful. Like, we've got support from our superintendent, we've got support from our principal, we've got support from our athletic director, like getting the systems in place of like, okay, we have the support, we don't have to worry about like this complaint or that complaint or whatever. Like, we're all on the same page of like, this is what it looks like to be successful, and not just like in our sport, but just like as an athletic department, or just like as a high school, like this is what we want our high school to look like, and the level of excellence that it comes to, and things like that. Like, for instance, the middle school has had a long time, like grade checks every 2 year or every 2 weeks, right? And if you're failing, whatever, you don't get to play for 2 whole weeks or whatever the system is. At high school, we had nothing, not at all, and so now we're putting that back into place of like, yeah, you don't get to have an F and just play on a Friday night willy nilly and just do whatever. Like that's not okay, because if you're not demanding excellence across the board for kids, like, how are they going to learn it getting it one time from one coach for 2 hours on a Monday?
Yeah.
Well,
especially as a young kid, if you're not constantly presented with a standard, you're not going to uphold a standard. And okay, so that's one change that's come back.
Yeah.
Is grade checks. And then you said something to me about phones.
Yeah, phone
Talk
policy.
to me about that.
So we were already kind of debating the idea, and that's obviously very split. Some people think, well, what about my senior who gets their stuff done and they're never a problem in class? Like, should they be able to be on their phone the last 5 minutes of class? And that
probably read another book.
Well, yeah, and that's
probably great for it.
And that's one theory, But then you have the other theory of like, well, that's great for those 4 kids in our school. Everyone else is not that. So,
sure.
There's different philosophies, but the state legislation has now banned phone in schools.
So that was a state level. That wasn't just Fayette.
Yeah. Okay. And so we've adopted that policy, which is, again, is almost good because it kind of took it out of our hands.
Would you have the option to not adopt that policy?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure it's just across the board. Like, they're not allowed to be like, now maybe like the minute details might be different. Like, they can't be in academic places, but you can have them at lunch or something. Like, some schools, I know that before this law has been put in place, like they do have that. Like, yeah, we've banned them in the classroom, but they can have them at lunch, in some places, like I think South Callaway, where it's a ban on campus, period. Like, if I see your phone walking the hallway, like, I'm taking it, type of deal. So we've adopted that of like, they will not be seen in the school, point blank, period, end of story. And I'm really interested to see how that plays out, because you're going to have kids who have to talk at lunch. Like, you're going to have kids who can't just like be by themselves, or can't just ignore reading class in my time and hide with their phone in their book. Like, they have to do what we're asking, or just be bored out of their mind all day. So,
which might be really good for them too. A lot of great ideas came from boredom. But,
yeah,
man, I think overall that's a good thing.
Yeah.
The only thing that piqued me was like, is there any safety issues with that? But I'm going to guess all of y'all have your phones from a safety perspective. If something's going wrong, there's probably very few times throughout the day that these kids are unattended.
Right.
But yeah, outside of that, I just think, man, even for myself, like I struggle to sleep because I'll scroll through YouTube for like an hour before I sleep, which is just dumb. And it's terrible for my brain. It's not even like that's just a good bored thing to do. It's terrible for my brain. Yeah, so I'm excited to see. Are you gonna, like, being the engineering person, are you gonna track that in whatever metric way that you can, or have you thought about that?
I wish that I would have known that. I mean, like, I kind of knew it was coming down the pipeline, but I wish I did like reading speeds and reading percentage and stuff, like from my freshmen to now sophomores. That would have been kind of a good metric to look at. But no, I mean, I am interested just to see the engagement, because we have like observational data of looking around the room, like who's reading and who's on page 3 for the last 40 minutes type of a deal.
Sure.
But I guess the metric you can look at when we do reading comprehension in our like a lot more our sophomore class, will those grades be higher than last year? Now, obviously, there's always fluctuation between just like the kids that you have and things like that. But when we have reading comprehension, is that going to go up because we actually are reading and we don't have other things to do? Or
are they reading real books, or are they reading iPads?
Yeah, they're reading actual physical books. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, we, like in my class, we offer digital copies for people who like want that, but I usually have them also have like an audio version as well, so you're hearing it and you're reading it at the same time. So we have like different flexibility, but for the most part, like I am, yeah, 100% read the actual book because I can't read. Like I took a master's class this summer, and there was a lot of like online reading. The online textbook was the only thing that we could buy, or it was like $100 more for the physical copy or whatever. And I was reading on it, and it was a struggle. So,
Yeah. Well, like my Mac, I get all my text messages while I'm trying to, like, I'm currently studying for an exam, and I'm just like, it's way too easy to just hop onto YouTube, Facebook, whatever.
Yeah.
So, well, that's good that you can eliminate that distraction. So you're teaching freshman, sophomore reading. Do you get to like pick the books that they read?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Like this is, I think, the small town that I wasn't like not prepared for, but just we had a reading list. Like, hey, these are district approved books.
Okay.
Which is a good thing. Like, so you're not just willy nilly teaching whatever.
Sure. Yep.
But it seemed like very like old timey small town. Like these are the only
Like
books
what?
that we.
Old Yeller?
Yeah, just like The Catcher in the Rye, like
Okay.
literally all that was on there were classics.
Yeah.
And so if you wanted to read something that was a little bit more new age, like you had to get that approved and things like that. And so I just thought it was kind of funny, like more from like an old timey standpoint of like we haven't taught anything different than Of Mice and Men for the last 30 years, like as opposed to Roses or Concrete Rose or something like that.
Sure.
Those kids have no idea what that book is.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I went here, but
Yeah.
Is there a public speaking class at Fayette High School?
Not currently, no.
Would that be up your alley from a communications type
perspective? I mean, we have like speech and debate is usually one that's pretty regularly available, or public speaking. And I actually, when we went to do professional development days over at Centralia and at Moberly, the two people that observed, they actually happened to do public speaking classes and things like that. And so I got some resources for them. And so I've been an advocate for, can we have other things other than just ELA 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yeah.
Or just like 4 honors. Because the class that I think that we really need is like literacy seminar for kids who like struggle reading. So when I have a freshman who reads at a 4th grade level, like giving them just freshman homework doesn't really help them, you know? And I taught that at Hickman in Columbia my 3 years that I was there. And I thought it was really beneficial. Like kids would take that class and whatever class that they were supposed to be in at the same time. So they would take literacy seminar and, we had it like, I don't know, whatever it was called, like English 2 or whatever. But
Okay.
But they would do both. I think the problem is like you only have so many classes to offer and so many spots available. And we talk about changes that we're trying to make as well, just holistically as a school. We're offering personal finance in the summer. We're offering you to be able to take health in the summer, like get those things out of the way where other schools are doing that and have been doing that. It gives you, one more class that you're able to take, so you can maybe branch out into something that you wouldn't have had time to do before.
I think the personal finance class came here and field trip this. Is it Holly that teaches that?
Yeah, maybe.
I think so.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be a huge one. I think the skill set that I see lacking the most, because I obviously employ a bunch of high school kids at the ice cream shop, and they're all awesome. But yeah, I'm excited to see what the lack of the phones do as far as teaching each other how to like talk and maybe argue, healthily.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. What are some other changes that have been happening that you're excited about that the new principal's bringing in, right?
Yeah. So, we had Jason last year, his first year.
Oh, so this is year 2 for him.
Yeah, this is year 2. He came from Moberly. And he was like a 6th or 7th grade like math teacher, middle school math or something for like 10 years or 15 years or something crazy. A lot of other things that he's doing, again, like holistically, like not just with classes, not just with sports, but like just the camaraderie for our like our high school staff. Like for instance, this Friday he's going to put on like a back to school get together. So us as teachers get to come together and hang out, and he's gonna, like, cooking for him is a huge thing. If there's an event, he's cooking. Like he's has a smoker out there all the time, whatever it is. And it seems kind of silly, but at the same time, like the best way that I've known to ever like build camaraderie or build bonds has been through eating and breaking bread with people and things like that. And so I think anytime that you can feed people like they're going to want to come around. Like no one really turns down a free meal.
No.
And so, he's going to do that for us. And I think we're going to maybe go somewhere. I don't know if it's like bowling or Midway or something like that, but like he really enjoys, and I think we share the same brain of like, I want you guys to have fun and get around each other. Like that is just as important as it is our professional development days and stuff. And I think even things like that have been pushback of, like, well, we're going to spend, school resources on doing these things or whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, because it's important,
Yeah, dude, you can't get anything right in the public eye.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Is it parents mostly that's hard to deal with?
I think it's a mix. A lot of stuff comes like internally as well. And to be clear, like it's no one ever, I think, like just bashing on whatever is being done. But I think it's just like comments of like, oh, well, like high school is like throwing a party. Like, well, you can come if you are upset that you're not coming. Like, you know what I mean? Just, I think that it's just, at the end of the day, it's different philosophies clashing. It's just like, this is what I believe and this is how I want to run it, and I'm in charge to run it to how I want to see fit. And other people have like, well, I just disagree with you. And I think that there can be healthy discourse between that. And I think that's a big thing for me is like, we can agree to disagree, but ultimately like this is how it's going to go. So either you're going to be okay with it or not, and that, is the same way as the my way or the highway, but just in a legitimate standpoint, like, why would you keep bashing against whatever we're going to do? Because it's going to happen regardless. Like,
yeah, when you've observed like people like Cedric, your old coaching places, Nesbitt's, whoever, were they people that involved the community and parents, or were they people like, did they kind of give up on like, y'all aren't coachable at all, so I'm just going to focus on the kids that are in front of me? Like, yeah, does that question make any sense?
Yeah. I think they all did in their own way. I think in some way, shape, or form, you have to engage more than just the kids, and that's what I've learned as well. Like, parents are just as important of a part of it. And even them, like, you can't just tell them my way or the highway.
Sure.
Like, you have to like, not necessarily give them, a voice per se, but just like let them be involved in ways that are beneficial and talk to them about like, this is what positive support looks like. And so for us, over the summer, we did like a team draft where each one of our coaches picked a captain that we thought like, if we were going to die today, like this is the kid that I am comfortable standing up and being a representative of our team. And so we had 3 of them before Coach Finley came with us, just because he was in and out throughout the summer. So we had 3 teams: black squad, gold squad, and white squad. And so if you look on our Facebook page, we have scores and stuff like that for like the competitions and stuff that we did. But essentially what we did is we picked those 3 kids. They got to draft a team from their fellow teammates. And the idea was like, who can you rely on to be a part of your team? And they got points for attendance. They got points for competitions that we did weekly. They got points for fundraising. They got points for just miscellaneous things, volunteering, our service projects. And so we did all of that. And that was really helpful for our like team bonding and competitive edge and things like that we wanted to do with our kids. But we offered the parents an insight of that. Like when we did that draft day, we tried to do it, up big as much as we could. And we said, come see your kid get drafted. Like, come be a part of that. Like, see where they're drafted in line. Like, come be part of that. And when we go out, like, we drafted our teams and then we went and tested, like, the combine. And so we tested 40s, we tested shuttle drill, we tested vertical, like all those things. And so you're watching your kid compete and you're a part of like our practice that day. And then we even gave them the opportunity that for extra bonus points, you get bonus points for showing up and being here a part of your kid, but you also get points for participating in a drill. So if you want to run a 40 as a dad, run a 40. Like, come out here and get your kid extra points. If you're the fastest 40, your kid gets bonus points, And so letting
I don't
them
have any kids in, but can I come do
be
some of
part
that?
Yeah.
It's sweet.
Yeah. So
What kind of 40 you think I can run, Cody? At least a 6. What can you run?
Right now?
Yeah. You notice how little we sprint after, like...
Yeah.
Like, when's the last time I've sprinted? I mean, I play tennis once a week, so somewhat of that, but...
Yeah. Well, I actually remember that the other day. I had to, like, run back to my car. Like, I had forgot something, and my friends were waiting for me, so I, like, was running, and I was like, when was the last time I've moved this fast on pavement? Like, but I don't know. I feel like I could get a solid 5.5 or less.
You think so?
Yeah.
I looked it up, and it says that a good 40-yard dash time for a 30-year-old would be around 5 to 5.5 seconds.
Yeah. It's not too bad. I ran a 4.8. I mean, I was never super fast in high school either. So
If it makes me feel good, I don't think I could run a fast 40 with my little
We should
legs.
do
So.
that. We should do that before we drop this podcast.
We can do it
Just
after.
Have me do a 40. Are you allowed to do 2-a-days anymore? Or did that die?
not the first week, but after that you can. But there's a lot more restrictions for Misha. We have like this whole heat acclimatization thing. Like the first 2 days, you only get
I
helmets.
definitely had a heat stroke as a kid.
Yeah.
100%.
You know, you could only do helmets and shoulder pads the next 2 days, and then even that you can only hit like bags, and then day 5 is like full gear, and even that is like wrap up and not full tackle or something like that.
Are we on those days yet?
Yeah. So today was just helmets only day. We had that this morning. Tomorrow will be helmets only, and then we'll go from there. But after that first week, then you can do 2-a-days. But even then, it's like 3 hours total, and you have to have like 3 hours in between and things like that. There's a lot of rules, and so I know a lot of coaches that have just kind of gone away from it in general, just because it's hard enough to get kids to come to
If
one
you can only
practice.
do 3 hours total and you split that, that's not.
Yeah.
That's you don't get a lot of time to
Right.
get stuff in.
Which is funny because I remember like back at Rockbridge, my freshman and sophomore year, like we had Coach Ofadale, who's now at Festus, and he was very much a my way or the highway guy. I mean, he's a former NFL player. He played tight end for the Ravens and played at Mizzou and all that. And I remember he was like we that program was so different than now, like when it just comes to his expectations and things. But I remember 2-a-day specifically because my buddy Josh would come over to my house and we would just like pass out after morning practice. I mean, we're just
because it was like 3 hours.
Oh yeah,
each.
Yeah, it was like 2.5 in the morning. I think we went from like probably 6:30 to 9 or something like that, and then we
they're
came
just
back in the
running
afternoon.
the dog out of you too.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just all over. And I remember my buddy Josh actually laying on the ground or laying on the couch, and I was upstairs cooking food or something. And I just hear him like screaming, and I'm like, "Dude, what's wrong?" Come running downstairs. He's like, "Charlie horse! I got a Charlie horse." He's just laying there trying to take a nap before we go in 2 hours. So it's definitely a different world, which is so weird because like I just turned 29 this summer. I don't feel 29 at all. Like I still feel like
you don't feel that much older than these guys.
Yeah,
right?
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but I look back and I'm like, I've been out of school for, going on 11 years. And
it was
it's like,
over a decade ago. You're like, what?
Yeah, and it's like the culture's changed that much in 10 years. Like that's crazy, but I'm sure that they probably felt like that from the 2000s. So
sure.
It's constantly changing and just, it's crazy how much it changes.
Well, we'll shift gears and talk a little bit about just you in general. How's your overall? Do you live in Fayette?
Yeah.
How's your overall reception been to Fayette? Do you like it here? We can edit this part out if you don't like it. Seriously, that's why I gave a nice pause before that.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to be here forever? Tell me about your thoughts about Fayette.
Yeah, my first year I just commuted, and the goal was to always like at some point integrate into the community. I think that it's important to be in the community that you're around, especially just with the position that I have. And so last summer I bought a house over on South Cleveland Street, just right up the road, and I think that there's like pros and cons. I mean, like I enjoy being in the community that I'm in, like that is nice. But I think the cons are just like what everybody says who lives here, like there's not much to eat and there's not much to do and just things like that. Like when I was coaching and things like that, I actually had a roommate at the time and we would just, it's a Wednesday night, hey, let's go make a pizza run or whatever, and we'd go do that for dinner.
Talk about coaching.
Yeah, exactly.
We're missing that a little bit.
Here you're like, man, it's 8:00. Everything's closed. So you're just like, all right. So that's
the two things that were open are closed.
Yeah, and that's hard. And even like McDonald's was open when I was at CMU, and I think my second year it closed.
2016.
Yeah, and so
RIP.
That closed, and even Dairy Queen like is closed for.
She gone.
Yeah. Like for good?
I don't know the actual details around it because people have told me that I put them out of business, and I'm like, no, I don't think I put them out of business because we need a good place to run and grab some French fries and a burger, which I think we have coming. I haven't heard on that place across from the what do they call it, the Fly by 240? I think I haven't heard from the Vaughns in a little bit, but like it's coming in that sense. But there is some like, dude, I remember having $5 in my debit account as a kid. And I could roll up to McDonald's and get a McChicken and a McDouble and still have $3 left when I was done.
Yeah.
There's something to that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we don't have any of those fast food places, and then even like restaurants, like it's been weird. And I talk with Garth a lot just because we've gotten pretty close, and he's obviously is a native to Fayette as well, and just talk about the dynamics of the town in general. Like TJ's opens and then it
Oh yeah,
closes.
even just in the last 3 years.
Yeah, and, Bee's Knees opens and then it closes. And it's just like why are they closing? And not that I could do much about it, but like, is there any way, shape, or form? Like, because I want to like not necessarily like give back to the community, but like I want to be invested in the community if I'm here.
Yeah.
And so how can I do that? Like even like it's a simple thing, but you opening an ice cream shop, like like obviously I'm sure that makes you money and that's good, but like, but it's a good thing to provide. Like we don't have that besides Dairy Queen, so
Yeah.
here you go. Like,
Yeah.
and if you're able to do that, and so I do have like not hopes and dreams of running a restaurant or anything like that, but like the house I moved out of in Columbia, like I rent that and I want to like
nice.
do some real estate and things like that. And I've talked to your brother about that and stuff. And so, noticing all these things opening up and then closing and stuff, it's like, is that because you like just poorly planned or you just don't want to do it anymore? It's harder than you thought. Like what is the reason behind it? And it's okay, whatever it is, but like I just want to understand the dynamics of that so I can in any way, shape, or form help prop that up as much as possible, even if it's just attending there and eating there and things like that.
Yeah, right now as a community member, you're pretty limited on just how many times you can go eat Henry's, how many times you can just stomach putting another exact, like Casey's, one of the best restaurants in town here. I have always believed, whether you're asking me or not, I think a lot of restaurants that close here, it's kind of like in a breakup, it's you got to trash the other person on the way out, even if it was your fault. That's a very common thing to do. I feel like that's a lot of the ways business has been done here where, there's, say there's 10 reasons for a restaurant to close. One of them might be the community. But it's one of the smallest ones. I've always said that businesses here don't fail because of Fayette. They typically fail, in my opinion, because of poor planning. And I think people underestimate just how difficult it is to do all of those things. I think it's nearly impossible to passively own food business. I do it, but it's because I don't take any money from it either. Like if it was my full-time job, it's a much different story.
Yeah.
If I was running Henry's was the only thing. So I have always felt like it's, and sometimes life happens too. Like there's, we're talking about those 10 reasons. One of them could be you weren't prepared for this. One of them could be like we have one of the highest sales tax rates in the state here. And we don't control that, or at least I don't. Maybe we do with voting power. I don't know. We'll look into that. Food costs. There's so many different things that are external factors, but very rarely, in my opinion, with the town of Fayette. Like I don't think McDonald's shut down because of a lack of support. I think it shut down because, if somebody can clean me up if I'm wrong, the franchise owner, McDonald's was forcing them to comply with a remodel that they either didn't want to or couldn't afford to do, and that was the end of that. The Dairy Queen, I think, was owned by nobody around here, so maybe it was an easy thing to shut down because they weren't around here. But dude, if you want to open a restaurant, I'll support that all day. I think I said in my podcast with Brandon, I think if I wasn't doing this and money didn't matter, I would definitely be in food, just because it's how you get to love on people. Like you said with the principal, it's one of the best ways to love on people. So does that mean you're kind of flirting with maybe doing a little 1031 exchange into some real estate,
Something like that. I mean, what's actually funny is my buddy Roderick Williams. So I wish he had his thing like fully up and running because I'd shout him out. But he's big into that as well. Like he loves cooking, like barbecue and grilling and all that stuff. And he makes just fire food. And he's always wanted to kind of do that. That's been kind of his dream side hustle. And he especially during the pandemic, like would make food and like charge people to drop it off and stuff like that. But I told him, I was like, dude, anytime that you want to like do that, like I will fully support that. I will help out like in any way, because I think that's a cool thing to do. And again, like you said, a way to love on people. And so, if he ever got his thing up and running, then like, okay, let's see, what does that look like in Fayette maybe, but I think even like food trucks and things like that, having those be staples of, they may not be here all the time, but they're always here on Mondays or whatever. And so
would you be allowed to get them out on like a Friday night?
I think so. I think the hard part is like the booster club, like runs all that tailgate and stuff. So like how you would, work that dynamic with them.
I wonder if McDonald's, because I remember some of the just camaraderie around football was having the DQ and the McDonald's parking lot chocked full
Oh, yeah.
before those Friday nights. And I wonder if McDonald's would let. I went and looked at that building actually before I did the Henry's right here, which was a much better decision for me.
Right.
But that would be a sick food joint. But even if you just had food trucks up in that parking lot on a Friday night, that'd probably draw some people out to at least go watch the games. And is that some of the participation you've talked about too? We got way off you living in Fayette, but what are some things you think are very possible to do to get yourself up from that 26 of 80 kids to 40 of 80 kids to 50 of 80 kids? What some things you think either you could do or you needed to see the community do to get people out for football?
Well, I think the twofold answer, like the community is just like push your kids to try new things and don't let them quit when it's hard. I think that's the biggest thing. I think that too often, kids can come home and say like, well, I don't really like it, or I don't know if it's my thing or whatever. It's like, well, like, let's dig into that. Instead of just saying like, okay, sounds good. Like why is it? What is it about it? Is it because you don't like the actual sport itself? You don't have any friends that play it? It's too hard. You're worried about getting hurt.
You don't like practice?
Yeah.
Because welcome to life.
Yeah. You don't like practice. Maybe you hate a coach. Like whatever it is, that's fine. But let's get to the heart of that. And that's what I try to do as much as possible, which is the second fold answer is like, I try to be and have a relationship as much as I can with every kid who will allow me to have a relationship. Like there's no one on our team that I don't like. There's no one that I just will try to avoid. Like I genuinely want all of our kids to be there, whether they believe that or not. Like I want to have a relationship with them because ultimately like I want them to be successful in whatever it is in life. Like that's my job to do as a head coach. Right. And so I try to make sure that I'm having those conversations with them when I have kids who are like, hey, I don't really want to play this year. Like I've had plenty of those the last couple of years, like 2 or 3 kids, 4 kids, whatever, like have wanted to play. And I go, okay, tell me why. Like, you're not going to hurt my feelings. If you hate me, like tell me, like that way I know, at least if you tell me to kick rocks, I know where it's coming from rather than just well, yeah, I don't know. Well, that doesn't help because even if you're not a part of our program, there's nothing for me to change and improve and grow on.
And life skill, communicate why.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the number one thing is like,
Sorry.
I think that's like the number one thing I was telling our parents last night at our parent meeting, like have your kids self-advocate for themselves, like help them learn to like go talk to people, like don't just disappear and never show up. Like you can't just do that at a job. You can't just not show up. Well, even though I'm sure plenty of people do, but
it's a problem.
Right. Like we don't know how to
there maybe.
Right. We don't know how to interact with people, especially having difficult conversations. And I think that's part of like the no cell phone policy. Like you don't get to just hide behind a screen. You don't get to just hide behind, like you have to go talk to people and have conversations and things like that. And so I think like I try to do a really good job of that. Like we have exit meetings at the end of every year and I go, are you going to come back and play? Some people say yes and 3 months later they don't, but we have those conversations. I go, what went well? What did you not like? Like, tell me, like bare bones, like I don't have an ego. Like I'm not going to get mad or butthurt or whatever. Like if there's something you didn't like about the program, even if it's something as silly as like, I hate our jerseys. Okay, well, we'll work on trying to figure out how to find better jerseys. Like, I don't care what it is, like, but I want to know because I am that self-learner, like, I'm a very reflective person. So I want to at least have the dialogue because if you don't have the dialogue, and that's, me being passionate about English, like, if we can't speak, then what are we doing, right? Like, and I think that's a microcosm of the bigger issue that we have in America is like no one wants to converse anymore. We want to yell and scream or we don't want to just avoid or whatever. We can't just have difficult conversations. And a lot of conversations I've had have actually been fruitful because we go, oh, well, you actually don't want to play because of X, Y, and Z. But X, Y, and Z is actually not true, or your perspective on it is not necessarily correct, or whatever it is. And they go, oh, well, I didn't realize, or whatever. Like, and so they might be more willing to try to be a part of it, to get through the tough part because of something that they're not fully informed on or whatever. And I think that goes for parents as well. It's like, oh, well, my kid hates it. Well, like, do you know why? Like, well, no, I haven't asked him. It's like, okay, we'll figure that out. And do you want them to work through that or just, oh, well, I don't like it. I'm not having a good time. I'm going to be leaving, because again, like we've had just as many conversations where kids like love being there. And so if there's such a stark difference, like why is there a difference? Why do you love being here and you don't like being here? And again, it's not necessarily all about just like football, it's not just like ragging on like us getting the kids, but it's again, as a whole, how can we get kids to work through those harder issues and stick with things that may or may not be something that they want to do and that are difficult? Because ultimately, like in life, you're gonna have to do that too. Like you said, like welcome to life. Like, yeah, at a job, you may not love your job, but is your job going to help you be a better person? Working with people you don't necessarily like, or getting up early in the morning and having attendance, like those are going to be successful skills for you to have.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people want to be heard without listening.
Yeah.
And then there's even a step below that. And tell me what you see more of. Do you see a lot of kids or parents that want to be heard and aren't very good at actually hearing the response? Or I think where I have got the most frustrated, and I coached a little bit of youth stuff, like I would rather, like when I was doing church stuff and teaching youth, I would rather have somebody violently in opposition and passionate about something wrong than apathetic quiet. What do you deal with more? Apathetic quiet with no wanting to be heard or listening, or a lot of people that want to make their voice heard without listening?
I think it's like from a parental standpoint, again, like not just with football, but just like kids and grades and things like that. Like the more like, well, this is how I feel like as the parent, like. And I think it's almost making up for it because the kids are so apathetic, like, oh, geez, like, I don't know. It's not the kid being like, well, hey, why did I fail this thing? It's like going home, mom, I failed. And then mom's like, what the heck's going on? Like,
mom wants to be heard or dad wants to be heard, but doesn't want to listen. Right. Yeah. How do you get that kid to do it?
Yeah.
And is that what you're working on?
Well, and I think that's the hard part. And I think the hard part too is like we said, you only have the kids so many times throughout the day. So it's really like, how do we empower the parents to, again, help the kids self-advocate and things like that? Because like at the end of the day, like parents just want to advocate for their kids and have the best for them, which is good. But, if they've never had to do it, how do they teach their kid to do it? And I think that's the hard part when you think about like, if someone is not doing what you need them to do or acting a fool or whatever, like it's easy to blame that kid. Well, the kids don't know any better. But if their parent doesn't know any better, then how many generations back do you go of like, well, this is just a lost cause? You know what I mean?
A lot of people we grew up with are now parents that you will coach. And you're like, yeah, this doesn't shock me that this is the state of communication now, because we grew up in the cell phone era now too.
Yeah.
It was the T9 and calls era, but it was still the cell phone era. So
yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see how you navigate that as a coach and as a person in general. So anyway, coming back to just being in Fayette. So you do own a house here, trying to be a real estate mogul, which I can help you with that. You like living here overall?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like I think that there's, drawbacks with just like things to do and things like that. But I enjoy like the small town feel, and like I enjoy going to CNR. Like some people are like, well, I don't want to be seen outside of school, but I'm not one of those people. Like I bump into Austin Coonsey more than anybody else at CNR. I don't know why. I've seen him there like 12 times in the last year. And so I enjoy seeing that because I want my kids to see me outside of the classroom and outside of the coaching role of wearing a cutoff and short shorts that I'm about to hop in bed with, like while I run down a CNR and grab something. Like I am a person too. Like I'm flawed just like you. Like I am need my food just like you. Like we're all people, just trying to work together in a common goal. And so I want them to see me in all those aspects. And so I enjoy that. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is just like the smaller part of the town of just not having a whole lot, or, if you do need something, you've got to, make a trip all the way to Columbia. And as someone who gets 12 miles to the gallon in their truck, like that's not great. It costs $15 just to go there. So,
Are you living your dream job?
I don't know. That's a good question. We had kind of said, do you see yourself being here a long time? Like, I'm going to be wherever my feet are planted and wherever I feel like God has me. And I feel like, again, with like the head coaching thing, like I never really wanted to be a head coach, but I felt like God was kind of pushing me into that space. And I never thought about Fayette ever being a place I wanted to coach, but trying to be obedient to those things. And when I came here, I first was like, okay, like 5 years is probably a good number. Like, I don't really know either way. I was just that's probably a good number.
It's a good number to go, hey, I lasted here. That long.
Yeah, right? I've got through a full cycle of kids, even a year afterwards. We'll kind of see where we're at. Like, and like being here, it's you don't know if you need to be somewhere else until you need to be somewhere else, in my opinion. And so I think for me, like not even having that 5-year number anymore, it's like, well, I'm going to be here until I'm not here.
So you're not.
You know, I know, or I feel like I know, like my preference, like I don't think I'm going to die in Fayette, you know. I think that this is a part of the journey, and I don't know where the rest of the journey goes.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm going to be like a 15, 20-year lifer type of deal. But who knows? I might be here 10 years. I might be here 12. Like, I have no idea.
You could be
know?
a lifer. Yeah, I think I learned, the Lord definitely taught me over the last year, like the idea of a forever home is kind of silly.
Yeah.
Because it kind of operates with the pretense like I know what the future is going to be like.
Yeah.
And you really don't. But so it sounds like, though, overall, you're pretty content on your world right now.
Yeah.
You have a baby? Did I see that?
Yeah.
I was Facebook stalking.
Yeah.
So you got a baby?
Yeah.
How old?
He just turned 1 in July.
Oh,
so
freaking fun.
he'll be 13 months and 4 days. So
Fun. I got a 10-month-old. He's wild.
yeah.
This year's wild. Are we in the Pharaoh Bobcat stage yet?
He's not too bad. He's starting to like want to like he's starting to walk.
Okay.
And he's like so close to walking, but he's just still so nervous
Oh, it's
about
one of
just
the worst stages.
going. Yeah.
You just start pushing them over so they
Yeah.
stop pulling up on things. Otherwise, they'll just fall.
Yeah. And so he's just like wants to like walk around all the time. I can't get him to be like, hey, like let's just sit and play with our toys for a little bit. It's just like, yeah, but I want to walk though. And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
then walk around, because I have like a big sectional and kind of like a little coffee table, so he kind of has a pretty decent lap area to go to. And I actually just the other day, he starts to like walk around the back of the couch, but there's nothing to grab on anymore, so he's just like, help. But I have his little high chair that's next to my dining room table kind of in the middle. So now he's like froggering like to that and then to the chairs, and then he made it all the way to the gate that I have into the kitchen when I was in there doing something. I was like, congrats, dude, you ran the obstacle course. Like, good job.
And now I have to re-baby proof my house.
Yeah. So I think that's the hard part. And then he's like at the stage too where he's like, I want to be up. Like, and you're like, okay. And you put him up. And he's like, let go of me. I want to be down. And you're like, okay, be down. He's like, but I want to be up. And you're just like, okay. We're just gonna
JJ
be
was
here.
doing that last night
Yeah.
where just, if I put him on the floor, irate, held him, just twist flop out of my
Yeah.
arms. I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So anyway, we should probably wrap up. Sorry for taking you so long, but
No, you're good.
what other things, is there anything else you want to make sure we talked about from just your life perspective or anything like that?
No, I mean, just like continuing with the August thread, that's my kiddo's name. You know, that's been a blessing to have him be a part of that journey and stuff, like stepping into a new role into season 3 with like being a dad and having responsibilities more than just football and teaching has been really cool. Like being able to have him be around like the weight room and things like that. Like when I have him in the morning, bringing him to weight room, even though he doesn't necessarily know what that means or anything yet, like it's just fun to share something that you enjoy with your kids, you know. And I've always wanted to be that, you know, dad's at practice, and even though we're in 3rd grade, like we're going to be at practice with dad, like growing up on the football field and things like that. Like I don't know what that balance is going to look like without oversaturating him, but at the same time, like I want him to be passionate about like the things that I'm passionate about, and I want him to see what dad does for a living, and hopefully he sees like, oh, dad loves on other people in this aspect, in this area. Like I want to be a part of that as well, you know. And that kind of goes back to, you know, the piece I didn't mention with like how do we get kids out and motivated and all those things. Like at the end of the day, like I want to just love on kids well. Like that's just what it is, you know. Am I perfect at that all the time? By no means, you know, but I genuinely care about people. Like I genuinely try to, you know, show Christ through myself and through my actions, and show what it means to like sacrifice for kids, whether they know, you know, that my alarm was up at 5:30 this morning, an hour before theirs, just to get everything ready or not. Like I ultimately just want to be a stepping stool for them and help them get to the places that they want to go to and things like that. And so it kind of reminds me of the last little thing I'll share is when we went down to Evangel Camp, which we do at the end of every summer. We get to scrimmage against other teams and do team bonding activities, stay in the dorms, all that. This year we started two things. One, a senior talk, so seniors get to talk about like, you know, what the program's meant to them, all those things, what they're grateful for. And then we did affirmations, and affirmations, like every kid got to sit up in front of our group and like awkwardly sit there, but be uncomfortable with like people sharing what they appreciate about that person and what they admire about that person and what they're thankful for that person. and then one of the players asked for the coaches to do that as well. So we sat up there as well. And one of the things that Carter had said was, I appreciate you providing me every opportunity to go play ball at the next level. And that was conversations that I've had with him over the last couple of years, because obviously he's our prime candidate to potentially go play college football. But
Is he a senior?
Yeah.
No.
But I also know that he has a passion for throwing javelin and shot put and discus and stuff like that, and he's equally as good at that. And so I think for my football brain, it's really hard to want to let him go do that, but I've told him over the course of our conversations, I just want you to provide the opportunity. If you have the opportunity to go long snap at Mizzou because you're a hell of a long snapper too, I want you to at least have that option, even if you end up choosing to throw javelin at Columbia College. That's fine. It'll break my heart, but that'll be fine. And so,
dude, that's a pretty good gig if you make it to the NFL long snapping too.
Yeah, exactly.
Not a bad gig.
And so, he just said that I really appreciate you providing me those opportunities, because that's ultimately what it is. I just want to see the growth of those people and want to do that. And I want ultimately, Jared Allen also said it at his Hall of Fame speech, if I get to the end of my life and people only talk about my career or the gold jacket that I have or whatever, I've failed as a person. Ultimately, he talks about his legacy as the relationship that he has with Christ and the daughters that he's raised. And that's kind of the same thing that I want to leave. I want people to be man, he represented what Christ looks like in a secular position, in a secular school system, in a secular world, really. I want them to be able to say that I love people well and that I did those things to the best of my abilities, and obviously that I was able to pass it on to August. So,
well, it's been good talking with you. At some point, we can talk about your faith journey sometime, but that feels like a good place to wrap. Anything besides money that, from a community support standpoint, that you would love to see out of people like me, people in the town?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is just showing up. When we're sitting at 2-7 last year, are we still coming out to the football games? Are we still showing our support? I think that's a big thing. Is just it's easy to fold it in when you have empty stands and things like that. Or when we do meet the Falcons here in a couple nights or a couple weeks, it's really easy to get excited for that night. And we're going to do a powder puff game and stuff this year and all that. It's really easy to get excited for that in the beginning of the season, but when it's hard times, are we still there to be supportive and showing up, I think is a big action. And then lastly, just having those conversations and those supports, if things aren't going well, how do we positively impact our young men, our young women, those type of things. I think that's the biggest thing, because ultimately as adults and as community members, we are role models for those young kids. And so just being as positive and supporting as we can in whatever way it is, like you said, financial, or just showing up, or just, wearing, we have little football decals for our cars that we have this year that we're going to sell and stuff. Obviously buying one, but then wearing it proudly on the back of your car, just those type of things I think are important, and doing that not just when it's convenient, but at all times. So
yeah. Well, sweet, man. Well, Fayette community, it sounds like we've got a good one here. So come out and support. One of the things I kind of just heard in what he was saying is that the way you live your life now matters, whether you're a high schooler or whether you're an adult. The way you live and the way you practice matters to how our community is going to go forward. So really good to meet you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
If you're ever looking for a post 8 o'clock half price Applebee's wings, that is me. You know, you just let me know, because I live in Columbia now. But anything else you want to add?
No, I just appreciate you having me on and just providing this opportunity and stuff. It's been cool.
I'm excited for the season. I'm trying to think of creative ideas. What if we set up a live studio out at the football game? That'd be wild. Just take KOMU's place,
Well, I think something honestly is that I want to do more with, obviously Justin Addison does all of our games and stuff, but I want him to interview our kids a little bit more. Yeah. And I think doing that, getting those perspectives, I think are really cool. And I think that's the hard part, that I've tried to do is get our brand out there. Last year I had what was his name? Tyson Ellison came and he did some YouTube videos for us, and hey, this is what you guys have been doing through the camp. Here's your jamboree scrimmage and stuff. He did a little hype video, but he also did he called it the bird's eye view, and he talked to players and different coaches and stuff. And I think just getting people aware of what we're doing, because I think transparency is a big thing for us. When we talk about all those numbers and data, I'm sharing those with the parents. I'm sharing that with our administration. Transparency is super important, whether people care about the new drone we bought or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
But just you are just as much of a part of our program. So I want you guys to see that. And so I think getting kids' voices out there and things like that through social media and all that, I think is a great idea. So
Yeah, when I wanted to be an athletic director, because I was actually kind of building out the spider web, but I always thought it'd be cool if you had like your guys or people or girls who were interested in the sport but didn't want to play it. Like you could clearly have an analytics team. You could easily have a media team. So that's what I will say. Like maybe if you're a high school student and you want to learn how to do some of this, it'd be cool if you had a media team of high schoolers that didn't play but loved covering the sport or loved, learning that kind of stuff. I think we would love to help with those kind of things too. I'm always more of I'd rather be involved than just throw money at it.
Right.
Probably because I have more time than money at the moment, but maybe someday that'll flip. But yeah, from a community standpoint, I'd love to help with anything that related. Maybe we can do some footage out there. I don't know.
Oh yeah, for sure. And if anybody wants to learn, I want interns right now.
Yeah, we got a whole studio in here. It'd be fun to do like interview the kids like after a practice. That'd be funny.
Yeah.
So
well, and I think someone told me like they have like I think it was a journalism class, but like they have like apparently the equipment for like a journalism
Here?
class. Yeah,
At the high school?
But apparently it hasn't been there for 6-7 years or something. I don't know what happened, but
we
they
will
said like
resurrect
they need
that.
they need a
let us
journalism.
resurrect that.
I
We
could
can
teach
help.
journalism.
yeah, they have like the equipment that when one of our 48 storage closets that
Yeah.
have
Well, talk to
nonsense.
whoever you would talk to on who would know that. I bet we could help resurrect that thing.
Yeah, and that'd be fun.
We don't need any money. I don't need to come teach math to do that, right?
Yeah.
I don't need to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to do something like that because like every place else has something similar to that.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing too about like being in a small town compared to a bigger town. Like there's just so many things that you just can't facilitate. You just don't have the people or number of resources or whatever. So
Or even just like the know-how. Like I think media and all this, like analytics and media, huge things in the capitalistic America that we live in that we aren't teaching in the high school level, which I'm not saying it should replace a whole class, but certainly should maybe be an extracurricular or a skill set for those people that want to learn it. Because otherwise, how did you learn it? Just getting randomly connected in this?
Networking.
Yeah.
And also like
There wasn't a college class, though.
No, just doing it. No, the college is so. I mean, I don't mean this in a negative way, but
But most colleges, not just Central, but most colleges don't have that kind of program. But anyway, all right, I'll shut up. But really good spending time with you, man. If you need anything, let me know. And with that, outro music?